The wound is the engine. Part 1, the kitchen table. You don't remember the first time you understood your family was broke. It wasn't a single moment. It was a collection of small ones. It was your father's hands. Rough, cracked at the knuckles, the kind of hands that don't fully clean no matter how long you wash them. He'd come home from the steel yard, sit at the kitchen table, and for about 4 minutes, he'd just sit there, not resting, processing, like a machine cooling down before it could be touched. Gary, Indiana. 2001, you shared a room with your sister until you were 13. The wall between your bedroom and the kitchen was thin, embarrassingly thin, and on Friday nights you could hear everything. The sound of envelopes, the specific, papery shuffle of bills being sorted by urgency. You were never the kid people pitied. That's the part nobody talks about, the specific cruelty of being almost okay. Not homeless, not hungry, not the charity case. You were the kid whose shoes were close enough, whose jacket was almost right. You learned early how to laugh at exactly the right moment so nobody looked too carefully. But you were looking, you were always looking. At 16, your economics teacher, Mr. Beaumont, Vietnam vet, 3 newspapers every morning before class, coffee mug that said world's okayest teacher without a trace of irony, told you that you asked questions nobody your age asked. He meant it as a compliment. You heard it as a compass. That same year, your father was passed over for a supervisor position, a job he had been doing informally for 2 years. They hired someone from outside. Your father came home, sat at the table, and said nothing. Your mother asked if anyone wanted more rice. He reached for the bowl. You watched his hand reach for that bowl and something in you went very, very quiet. Not angry, not sad, quiet in the way that decisions are quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't leave. You decided, right there, that you would learn the system, not protest it, not resent it from a distance. Learn it, master it, and then build something the system couldn't ignore. Part 2, the parking lot. His name was Calvin Marsh, 31 years old, $22 million in the bank. He came to your high school's entrepreneurship day because his nephew attended and he owed his sister a favor. He was the only person in that auditorium who didn't seem impressed by being there. Everyone else, teachers, students, the principal, treated him like an event. He treated it like a Tuesday. You were taking notes while everyone else was half asleep. After the assembly, you followed him to the parking lot. You didn't plan it. Your legs just went. He was loading into a car that cost more than everything inside your house, and before you could stop yourself you said which part of the speech was actually true. For 18 months, you were his unpaid research assistant. You took a 2-hour bus ride each way. You brought food from home, not because you couldn't afford to eat out, but because you'd done the math on what 3 years of small daily expenses cost at 8% compounded, and that number permanently changed how you looked at vending machines. His head of operations was a woman named Teresa. Logistics, background, spoke in constraints, had an answer before you finished describing the problem. Teresa taught you something Calvin never could: how to see a business not as an idea, but as a system of dependencies. Which parts fail first? Which parts look broken but aren't? Where leverage actually lives versus where people think it does. Part 3, the word no. You are 21. You have an idea, not a startup idea. Everyone has those. This is different, specific, operational, unglamorous. You built a working prototype in 8 months. 2-bedroom apartment. Classmate who asked almost no questions. Nights and weekends and the particular silence of a person who has stopped being interested in anything that isn't the problem in front of them. You showed Calvin. He offered $150,000 for 35%. You said no. You had never said no to Calvin Marsh. The word arrived before the decision did. Your mouth said it before your brain caught up. But when your brain caught up, it agreed. You graduated on a Saturday. You incorporated on Monday. You called your father from the parking lot after the ceremony. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, okay. One word. You've never forgotten it. The weight of every skipped promotion. Every Friday night envelope. Every bowl of rice reached for without complaint. Okay. Part 4, the hum. You were 26 years old. The wire cleared on a Thursday afternoon. You stared at the number on your phone for 40 seconds. Then you put the phone face down on your kitchen counter. And you stood at the window. And you waited to feel something proportionate to what had just happened. Nothing came. You bought your parents a house. Your father walked through every room twice, touching the walls, not saying much. Your mother stood in the kitchen and cried. Not politely, not briefly, but fully, the way people cry when something they stopped allowing themselves to hope for actually happens. That moment, standing in that kitchen, watching your mother cry, was the only thing in that entire year that felt proportionate. Part 5, the song. You fly home for Thanksgiving. Your sister picks you up in her 2011 Hyundai. On the drive, she plays a song from when you were kids. She sings along badly, unself-consciously, the way you only sing when there's no audience and no stakes and nothing to perform. You realize, sitting in the the passenger seat, that you cannot remember the last time you did anything, without calculating how it would read to someone watching. Your sister was just singing. You didn't sing along. You'd forgotten the words. Part 6, The Engine. 14 months after the acquisition, the board installed a professional CEO. You became Chief Strategy Officer, which is the corporate language for, we will put you in front of investors to make this sound inevitable, and then we will not involve you in anything that matters. You watched them rebuild the product for portfolio alignment, deprecate features, reprice it in ways that punished the exact mid-market customers you built the thing for. What you lost wasn't control. You'd expected to lose control. What you lost was the specific feeling of watching something become what it was supposed to be. 6 months later, you incorporated again. New city, new problem, leaner, smarter, built on everything the first one cost you. The seed round closed in 9 days. At the first all-hands meeting, 43 people were looking at you, and you felt the hum again. Low, directionless, the television in the other room. You are 28 years old. You have done this twice. You will do it again. You already know. Part 7. What they don't say in the speech. Here is what nobody puts in the assembly presentation. The hunger that pulls you out of Gary, it doesn't know when to stop. It was never designed to stop. It will take you places that would make your 16-year-old self go completely silent, but it will also make every arrival feel like a departure, every finish line feel like a hallway, every number feel like a question. Your father is proud of you, genuinely, without complication, the way only someone who never wanted this for himself can be proud of someone who did. But you cannot remember the last time you felt what he feels. That sufficiency, the ability to sit at a table, a simple kitchen table, and feel like the table is enough. That's not a tragedy, it's just the truth. Part 8. The people you left behind. There is a conversation you keep avoiding, not with investors, not with lawyers, with yourself. It goes like this: was it worth it? Not the money, not the company, not the acquisition. The question is asking about the Tuesday nights you weren't home, the birthdays you attended physically but not really, the friendships that slowly, quietly, without any single dramatic moment, just stopped. You had a friend in college, Marcus, grew up 2 streets over from you in Gary. Same kind of house, same Friday night envelope sounds. He went into teaching. High school history, same district you both grew up in. You haven't spoken in 3 years. You think about Marcus more than you think about most of the people you see every week. You think he might be the freest person you know. Part 9. The advice nobody asked for. People ask you for advice constantly now. Young founders, college students, kids who found you on the internet and send messages at odd hours with questions that are really just one question dressed up in different clothes. How do I get out? You used to give the standard answers. Work harder than everyone else. Find a mentor. Know your numbers. Solve a real problem. All of that is true. None of it is the whole truth. Here is what you actually want to tell them. The thing that gets you out will not let you rest when you arrive. Know why you're running, not the answer you give at panels. Not the origin story you've polished for press releases. The real reason, the one that lives in your body, not your biography. Carry that reason carefully. It is both your fuel and your wound. Part 10. The table. Last Christmas you went home. You went to the old neighborhood. Drove past the house you grew up in. Someone else lives there now. The porch light was on. Through the window you could see the blue flicker of a television. You sat in the car for a while. You thought about the wall between the bedroom and the kitchen. The sound of envelopes. The 4 minutes your father sat at the table before he could be touched. The rice bowl. The one word okay said in a parking lot to a son holding a degree and a decision. The ability to sit at a hard table and not be broken by it. He taught you that without ever saying it, without knowing he was teaching anything at all. Part 11. The cost of speed. When you move at the speed you moved, college, Calvin, prototype, fundraise, scale, exit, you leave a version of yourself behind at every stage. Not dramatically, not with any ceremony, just quietly, the way a snake sheds skin. You reach back for patience. Gone somewhere around Series A. You reach back for the ability to be bored. Gone somewhere around 200 employees. You reach back for the feeling of a Saturday with nothing in it. Gone so long ago you can't remember what it felt like to have one. Part 12. What wealth actually buys. Money buys options. That's the real thing it buys. Not happiness, not freedom, options. Your father never had options. Every decision he made was inside a box that someone else built. Money bought your parents a bigger box. That matters enormously. But here is the part that surprises people: the box doesn't disappear. It just changes shape. The walls are different, but there are still walls. True freedom, the kind your sister has singing badly in a 2011 Hyundai, that's not about the size of the box. It's about making peace with being inside one. Understanding that everyone is inside one. That the goal was never to escape all constraint. The goal was to choose your constraints, to build a box that fits the shape of who you actually are. You are still working on that part. Part 13, the real lesson. If you could go back to that parking lot, if you could stand next to the 16-year-old version of yourself watching Calvin load into that car, if you could say one thing before the legs started moving, you wouldn't say work harder. You wouldn't say find a mentor. You wouldn't say know your numbers. You would say this: the thing you're about to start building will work. You were never just building a company. You were building yourself. And that project doesn't have an exit. It doesn't get acquired. It doesn't vest. It doesn't clear on a Thursday afternoon. It just continues, quietly, stubbornly, with or without your cooperation. The wound is the engine, and the engine is the point. Go. Your legs already know where. The wound is the engine.